Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, brought to you by the Last Man Standing with loserpool.com. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and I'm joined by a guest today, joined by my good friend, Arsenal fanatic, Kyri. Kyri, welcome back to the pod. It's been a while since you've been on.
Yeah, it has, yeah.
It's been a very long time. We are still in Sheffield. We're waiting for our train in a couple of hours' time, so we're just chilling in the hotel at the moment. Thought it best to record this day after the game, as opposed to straight after the final whistle, because emotions were running high, weren't they? I mean, people were really pissed off yesterday, and rightly so. Let's start off, we're going to dissect the game. Let's start off by looking at the initial team selection. If we have a look at the team Unai initially picked, it was Leno in goal, a back four of Chambers, Sokratis, Luiz and Kolasinac, Xhaka, Guendouzi and Willock in the midfield, with Saka and Pepe operating from the flanks, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang leading the line through the middle. No place for Torreira in the starting lineup, no place for Tierney or Alexander Lacazette, and no place for Mesut Ozil in the entire squad. What did you make of the initial team selection?
Well, it was wrong, like it usually is every week at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at that the players that were left out, and I look at Tierney in particular, and I think, why is he not starting the game? You know, Holding as well.
I agree with Tierney. I think surely he's fit enough now. I think the fact that he's on the bench shows that he's probably fit enough to start. Bellerin and Holding, they've had long-term injuries, so kind of maybe understand that a bit more. Holding's been out for nearly a year now, same as Bellerin. So it's long-term injuries, so they kind of probably need to be moulded in a bit more carefully. But Tierney surely, if he's on the bench, he's fit enough to start.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that Tierney should have started. I think that Rob Holding should start as well. I mean, how many times are Sokratis and Luiz going to play poorly and still be selected? So that's the frustration for me there. The one I do understand a little bit is Alexander Lacazette. I wouldn't have started Lacazette.
Yeah,
He's been out
agree. Couple of
for
months.
a while. Yeah, and you know, we had Aubameyang playing through the middle. Now, around about 2-3 minutes in the game, I remember turning to you and saying, playing Saka tonight was a mistake. And I know a lot of people would have started Saka before the game, but he just looked so physically out of his depth, didn't he?
I think had Lacazette been fit enough to start, he probably would have started ahead of Saka. But I agree with you. I think last night, Saka, it shows a lot of talent and it shows a lot of promise. But in a game like last night, away from home, up north on a Monday night, I think he was a little bit out of his depth in that sense. I'm surprised he lasted 90 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, how he avoided being hooked off, we'll never know. Again, though, there was an evident lack of creativity. And we keep hearing about this Mesut Ozil thing. It keeps rumbling on. We were told last week, but you know, Ozil gave an interview. He told us that he's doing everything as he normally does and there's no issue. And he had an opportunity really to have a go at the manager, and he didn't take that, which he deserves credit for in my opinion. He stayed classy. But then we heard from Emery the same day that his training had improved. So again, why was he left out of the squad? And was it the right decision? When you look at the lack of creativity in that team, can you warrant Mesut Ozil not being in the side?
No, you can't. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, I think if you look at Ozil's career at Arsenal, he has not really fulfilled his potential like we thought he would when we signed him. But at the same time, to not be in the squad is completely strange, very strange. And I think at the moment, when you look at Emery, if he's gonna shut Ozil out like that and not put him in the squad completely, he's got to be getting results, and he's not. Yeah. So, and the thing is as well, when you come to places like this and you lack creativity, and you think, all right, Ozil, if I've got him on the bench, maybe he can create something, and then you haven't got that option. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm a fan of Joe Willock, and I think he's a player that will develop into a very good player eventually. But I've always made this point with youngsters, you will get inconsistency, and I thought that Joe Willock, I know he only played the first half, but he was very poor yesterday. And for me, when you see Joe Willock performing at that level, there is no reason why Mesut Ozil cannot at least
be on the bench. I agree.
That is my point. You know, I get that there will be games away from home where tactically perhaps Mesut Ozil doesn't fit, but in terms of the overall bigger picture, he's good enough to be on that sub bench.
100% agree. 100%
and
agree.
it's a real problem. Now, you know, it seems like we're all doom and gloom. You know, really disappointing defeat against a newly promoted side. We knew the game wasn't going to be easy. It never is at Bramall Lane under the lights, as you said. Tricky fixture indeed, but we should have had a penalty, shouldn't we, on Socrates in that first half? He almost, me and you saw it from the other end of the stadium.
I haven't sine it on TV, but I mean, at the time we were at the other end of the ground, and it looked. And I saw a yellow shirt being pulled, so I thought it should have been a penalty at the time. Obviously, haven't seen the replay, but at the time, it looked a penalty. Yeah,
it was 100% a penalty in my opinion. Really, really. Disappointing to not see that given, but it doesn't excuse the rest of the performance. In terms of the substitutions that Emery made during the game, he brought Alexander Lacazette on. Well, first of all, he brought Dani Ceballos on at half-time for Joe Willock. I thought that was a right move.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, Joe Willock, as we've already said, wasn't having a good game at all.
No.
He made the change, and then he brought Alexander Lacazette on, and he decided to hook Pepe. Instead, no, it wasn't Pepe initially, was it? That was the last change. That was for Martinelli.
Yeah. But that was a strange one.
He took Xhaka off. He took Xhaka
off.
So you're taking off the centre of your midfield, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans are really anti-Xhaka at the moment. And you know, there was some ironic cheers from our fans, which I think is fucking out of order.
Yeah, agree.
You know,
agree.
It doesn't help, does it?
No.
So Xhaka was hooked off, but it's like, and Arsene Wenger used to do this, and it used to drive me mad. You cannot just take away your midfield and expect to create. It's no good throwing 4 forwards on the pitch if you can't control possession.
Well, the thing is that the weird thing is about when you're chasing a goal and you take your whole midfield off and you throw everything forward. That team is like last night, part the bus. They sit everybody behind the ball, and then it's hard to break them down. And when you do lose possession, you're very vulnerable to a break. So I get that you're chasing a goal, but you also have to be careful that when you lose the ball, that you don't concede another goal as well.
You have to remember you're only chasing 1 goal.
Yeah.
You're not chasing 3 or 4.
Yeah,
So,
I know.
Yeah, that was a strange change. He made the change. And again, young player, lots of talent, but Bukayo Saka was poor last night. So how he avoided coming off the first time and the second time when Nicola Pepe came off from
Pepe actually looked quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, for once.
Yeah, he looked quite dangerous, so I was surprised Pepe come off instead of Saka.
Yeah.
But it's a hard one, isn't it? Because you look at the likes of like Saka, Willock. I do like the fact that they're giving youngsters a chance, and good youngsters like that, and they should be given a chance. But there's a limit to how much as well they should be playing games. And last night, especially when you've got the likes of Dani Ceballos on the bench, away from home at a ground like Bramall Lane, I mean, to me, you've got to be more realistic and put a bit more experience in it, especially the last couple of years, how bad we have been away from home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people talk about style of play a lot, and you know, style of play is not everything, but it certainly becomes an issue when the results are not quite what you expect.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And at the moment, and I know, you know, last week we were all going, we're sitting third, but I was quite clear that I felt that was papering over lots of cracks.
I 100% agree, yeah.
And you know, we are very fortunate that Manchester United are not at their best this season, neither are Spurs. Chelsea, for me, you know, they've done okay of late, but they will have ups and downs, being a young side. And Frank Lampard being a relatively inexperienced manager. So I think that, you know, we probably will finish in the top 4, but style of play, how much of an issue is that to you personally?
Well, it's a major issue. It shouldn't be just a major issue for Arsenal, it should be a major issue for every club, really. By the way, quick thing, I don't think it's a given we'll finish in the top 4.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's certainly not a given. It's certainly not a given. But yeah, I mean, for me, the style of play, you know, if you're getting the results and you're not necessarily playing the champagne football, I think fans will have more patience.
Agree, but the thing is as well is like the style of play. It could be a number of things. You could be a very defensive or physical side, but that's your style of play, isn't it? But we don't really show exactly. We don't really show anything. We have it's very flat and it's very boring at the moment, and there is no real style of play there.
We're so heavily reliant on the creative influence of our fullbacks, and at this moment in time, like as good as Callum Chambers has been filling in, he's not going to create.
He's also playing out of position as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's not going to create for you in the final third. And Sead Kolasinac, he makes the runs and he gets in the right positions, but for me, he's not quite.
He's very dangerous in the opposition box, but I think defensively he's very poor.
Yeah. Lots and lots of issues.
I think the fullbacks, when Bellerin and Tierney are fit and they do start, I think they will help. I think actually, if anything, they'll help us more offensively than defensively.
I agree.
But they're not going to come in and dramatically change us completely. I mean, they're two very good fullbacks and they will help, but they're not going to change the team drastically, are they?
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think you hit the nail on the head. They'll improve us offensively, but not necessarily defensively. And we need both at the moment. We're obviously. I mean, the goal we conceded, it was such. We didn't get to see a replay at the time because Bramall Lane. I don't even know if they had a screen. I couldn't see one from where we were.
I didn't see one.
But it was poor defending, and it wasn't just the first header we lost. We lost the second ball as well.
A lot of the second balls,
which is really
throughout a lot of the game, we were losing second balls all the time.
Yeah, it's poor, and I can understand why people are pissed off. Emery out was trending last night, and it's not. I think people have just got to the point now where we've seen him at the club for quite a while. All right, in football terms, it's not a long time, but in the modern era, it is a long time. You expect to see a style embedded. You expect him to know his best team, and we still don't see any of those two things.
No, we don't.
And people are rightly concerned. And towards the back end of last year, I was talking about Unai Emery and how I felt that we hadn't really found an identity and we hadn't really improved all that much, and I was getting absolutely slaughtered for it. And now some of those same people are on the same page. It's taking a little bit longer to get there, and I get that because they wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I still personally do as well, but it's getting harder and harder.
It's getting harder and harder, but like we were saying before we started recording, what loyalty or affiliation do we have to Unai Emery? Arsene Wenger was poor towards the end. We all know that, but we all gave him a bit more time because he had that credit in the bank with the fans because he'd achieved so much.
Well, that's the thing.
Unai doesn't have that.
You had the loyalties to Wenger because of what he'd done in his past and what he's done as a whole for Arsenal. But yeah, with Unai Emery, you've got nothing really.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely none of that there. And then for him to come out after the game and say, "We deserve to win," that drove me fucking mad. What game was he watching?
Yeah, I know. I agree. And then he was going on about corners as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dan over at the Islington Gazette, big shout out to Dan, he was on the podcast last week. Please do follow him, Journo Dan M, I think he is on Twitter. He asked the question in the press conference. He said, do you think you know your best 11? And Unai Emery started going on about corners. And then, obviously there's a language barrier.
You've got to laugh really, haven't you?
I mean, obviously there is a language barrier there, but is that language barrier causing a problem in the dressing room? You could argue it is.
Potentially, yeah. But even asked a question like that, I'm sure his English is good enough to know what
the
has been
question
asked.
was. Yeah. I mean, lots and lots of stuff to talk about. We'll be dissecting it further over the course of the week. Just a quick impromptu podcast today because, like I said, we are in Sheffield. We're waiting for our train, enjoying our Costa coffees. Apologies for the quality of the recording. It may not be up to the usual standards. That's because we didn't lug a whole load of equipment with us. So we're just recording it with basic stuff. Thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on the audio, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review. And if you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube and looking at our pretty faces, especially this gorgeous man here, please do hit the like button, comment and share. And we'll be back very soon with some more Arsenal related content. Until then, take care.